July 25, 2023. Call this meeting of Wichita County Commissioners Court to order. At this time, will everyone please rise, and Commissioner McKinnon is going to give our invocation.
Pray with me. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord, for just your almighty hand to watch over us, Lord. Thank you for everything you do for us. Thank you, Lord, for keeping us safe. Thank you for everything that you do for us, Lord. Please, Lord, be with us and let us have some rain in our area. We're really drying out with these temperatures like they are, and I just pray that we get some rain to our community, Lord. Also, as Lord, please be with our community as the divisiveness in our government and throughout our government, our state, our county. It seems like everybody's divisive. I just pray, Lord, that you give us the ability to come together as a community and be a strong community and do what's right in your eyes, Lord. All this, Lord, I ask and pray for through your Son, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
The pledge to the United States flag. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now the pledge to the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
All right, everyone have a seat. Thank you. I don't think we have any presentations this morning. Is that right? Okay. All right, it is 10:05, and we will open up time for public comments. As a reminder, we ask that everyone keep their comments to 5 minutes or less, and Commissioners Court cannot take action on any item brought up during public comment. This morning, do we have any public comment? We do.
Hello, good morning. So the tax office wanted to give you guys a thank you for helping with Tommy's benefit. It was a huge success, and I know we're a little late, but conference and all the crazy things that happened during this time. But we were so pleased to be able to go out there and see everybody from Commissioner's Court out there, and you guys just weren't standing. I mean, you guys were hitting the ground running, and we couldn't have done it without you guys being playing a huge part in that. So thank you guys so much for doing that. It was, like I said, a huge success.
Well, Kim, thank you for, you did the heavy lifting. You coordinated everything. You kept everybody in line, and we certainly appreciate you coordinating that. And you had such a team effort going too.
For sure. Yeah, I couldn't have done it with everyone who had a part in it, and our office knows that. Tommy would have done that for anybody, so we rallied around and made sure that we put on a good benefit for him. So good news is he's good. He goes back in I think 3 weeks just to do his last little scope, and we'll be praying that all is good there. So here's this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Do you have any other public comments this morning?
Yeah, briefly, I'd just like to talk about, I had the distinct honor and privilege to get to host one of the events at NACO. We held a bike ride on Saturday morning for elected officials and appointed county officials from across the country. I was a co-host with Travis County Judge Brown and Harris County Commissioner Ellis, along with Bike Texas. So got the opportunity to represent Wichita Falls and the Hotter Than Hell 100. Had a lot of people ask about Hotter Than Hell. So it's really cool. Maybe we can get some more county officials to come and be part of our festivities here. So great honor. So
Tell them about the bikes, Mark.
oh, they were e-bikes, so you could either pedal or you could use power assist. So it was kind of a leisurely stroll around Austin at 6 o'clock in the morning. So it was nice though to get to do that.
Yeah. Good deal. Any other public comment? Okay. It is 10:08, and public comment is now closed. At this time, let's move on to consent agenda. I have one thing I need to remove, item number 8 on the consent agenda. It is a duplicate item for something the court has already taken action on.
Because I was gonna ask about that.
Yeah, so we will be, if there's no objection, we'll remove that off of
Okay.
the agenda.
Item 7, what are we moving from capital to operations for
I had,
precinct?
Mark, I called Mike Friday. All of our money was setting in capital expenditures,
Uh-huh,
and we didn't have any money for maintenance.
for maintenance, okay.
And so they moved that money around, and we may have to, we will be moving it back. Corey or Margaret's gonna get our distributor bill, and it's, I think, gonna take us, wash us out, so.
Okay, I just didn't understand why, what.
That's why they were spending money out of there with no money in the line.
Okay. Good enough.
And the opposite is happening on 6 for Mickey.
That's the difference of the truck and the bed and capital improvements,
Okay.
needed that extra funds. Motion to approve consent agenda.
I'll second.
All right, got a motion by Commissioner Kincaid, seconded by Commissioner Beecham to approve the consent agenda as amended. Do we have any public comment on this item? All right.
Before we
motion-
vote, I'll ask one more question. We got the early voting judges for the Republican Party. Do we not have, we have them for the Democratic Party as well?
And on that, I don't know about what he said, but on top of what Mark's saying, I noticed gaps in there.
Yeah.
Is that to be filled in later, or how does that work?
That'd be a good question to ask our county clerk, and she's not able to be here this morning. To answer your question, Mark, I think, we just haven't received.
Haven't received
list.
it? Do we still have time to receive that, though?
It's getting dicey.
Okay.
But I know that our county clerk's office has been in communication with them to try to get it in.
Okay. Okay. What, do you know what happens if we don't?
I don't.
Okay.
Well, no matter what, elections.
No, I know elections have to
Yeah,
go
elections
on,
will
but,
happen, but,
Whether anybody shows up to work or
But
not.
they've had a
well,
very,
you can't do an election without an election judge, can you?
and is that something that'll come from Terry? She'll propose that to Annette? Is that where this came from?
the Democratic Party, it's on them to get that list.
Okay, I bet she does. She's
Yeah.
very on the ball, so.
Okay. I just wondered, so,
Yeah, no, it's a-
sorry, I should ask her.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
All right, the motion is before us. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. All right, moving on to general business, item number 1. Review and approve the regular bills for payment. Verify payroll taxes have been filed. And order county treasurer to disperse payroll and bill payments within 72 hours via U.S. mail, FedEx, UPS, or electronically, unless directed otherwise, or may be picked up and ledgered in the treasurer's office. I think everyone will notice there's been a little addition to the language in our normal general business number 1, to verify that payroll taxes have been filed. It's one measure to ensure that we don't have any more late penalties, or we don't have that issue happen again. However, I think that Commissioner Beecham also wanted to say something. on
Yeah,
this.
I did request an agenda item for today to be on the agenda to discuss plans moving forward so we're not taken by surprise again. Unfortunately, all parties were not available for today's meeting, so that'll have to be put off to next week. So we'll be looking forward to hearing a report on what's our procedures to ensure this doesn't happen again.
Where was that at, Mark?
It's not on the agenda.
Oh,
It was removed because all parties could not be here
Oh.
for today.
So we'll have it on for Monday, next Monday.
Motion to approve.
Second.
we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Buchanan, seconded by Commissioner Beecham. Do we have any public comment or questions on this item? Okay, the motion is before us. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item number 2, discuss, consider, and/or take action to advertise for bids for food services for inmates in the Wichita County Jail. So, as everyone's aware, our current contract is with Aramark Food Services. So we haven't had any problems or any issues with them as our vendor, but our current contract with them ends at the end of 2023. And we've got a 90-day notice for termination if we're going to do that. And so with that timeline in place, I thought it'd be a good practice. Competition's always good.
Sure.
To go out and put that out for bids. Let Aramark rebid for it if they want to, and any other entity that might want to.
Are we going out with standard bids or RFQ, RFP, or?
So we would, I think that the motion would be for us to compose an RFP and then send it out for bids.
Okay.
Dr. Patterson, did you want to add anything to anything I just said?
And Lisa, you see some other big vendors that are in the arena of Aramark?
I mean, there are other food service vendors. I don't know, if I don't know their quality or the size of agencies that they have. I do know there's others out there. So.
And again, none of this is, I think, been by and large very satisfied with the job Aramark has done, but I'm a believer every now and then you gotta look at that stuff and send it out again just to see what's out there.
Yeah, we've been with Aramark since 93 or 94. But since moving to the new facility, we haven't had any issues. If there is issues, it's just really minor things, but.
And probably not anybody large in this area that would have the infrastructure to take it over.
Well, and Judge, I always worry about the opposite of that. We give the vendor the opportunity, since they're the Lone Ranger, to go up on us some,
Yeah.
knowing that Houston's not coming to bid, or,
Well, I mean, that's certainly
I mean,
why the court
that's why I wondered that.
take action. So, I mean, the way it is, we could opt to renew with Aramark, or we could go out for bids.
There's some validity either way you look at it there,
Well,
because
purchasing requirement wise, do we need to go out for bids every time? Or can we just continue to extend the contract?
assuming we haven't done it since
Yeah.
1990.
Well, we've
2015?
we're doing
That's when we put the
2014.
last RFP out.
but when the contract is up, it's not really a professional service. We're buying goods and services
Yeah.
from them. It's not a professional service. So does it fall under the same?
I think so.
So we would have the purchasing requirements to rebid it at the end of the contract.
I thought there was a stipulation on an agreement about the length of time for one renewal and then the second renewal shortened window. I just,
There is, but I'd have to look into it.
Yeah, no, I have the agreement in
I'd have
front
to
of
look
me.
at it. I haven't.
It's been 7 years anyway, so.
Yeah, I want to say that the contract that we currently have with them has a 1-year auto renewal. I don't know if you have to bid it after a certain amount of time, but like Commissioner Buchanan said, we've been with them since 14 and we've just continued to do the renewal on them. I will say that there's not any companies, like Aramark, they do nationwide, and so I think any company is not gonna be close to us, but talking with them I think it was about 2 weeks ago, I think regardless of if we go out to bid or if we continue the contract, we are gonna be looking at a price increase, so.
yeah, sure. So it wouldn't hurt.
Yeah, I think
Well,
that's right.
Yeah,
I think it's been long enough, it's time to
I agree.
go out.
So is that your motion?
Yeah, I'll make the motion to
I'll second.
go out to advertise for bids or to develop an RFP.
Develop an RFP.
Yeah, so we'll change that. I'd make the motion that we develop an RFP to send out for our solicit bids for our inmate food services.
Second. And I have another question, Margaret, on this, or Corey can help. So, let's say they give us the price per, I guess it's meal head count, right?
Yeah, it's
That's how we do it, but we do track that, right? We do audit the,
Yeah, when it comes through, the
Invoice.
girl who enters it looks at it and makes sure all the numbers are right, because sometimes it's off. They've accidentally shorted us, they've accidentally over before, and so we get that corrected. But they check it when they put it in, and then I check it when I check the bill to make sure that we're paying the correct price for the week based on how many people are in the jail. And Robin checks it before it ever comes to us, so
Okay.
there's 3 people checking
So-
that to make sure the amount is correct for the week.
So the price per meal changes with the population, is that correct?
right?
And then obviously we pay per meal based on the price that changes with the varying population.
Does it go up or down?
It goes down the more people we have in jail.
Wish
Not by
everything did.
tons, but, excuse
I
me.
wish everything did.
I know, right? Well, we have a low number in jail right now, so that doesn't really help us.
So before we vote on the motion, who's going to put the RFP together?
Captain Patterson and Nancy have already,
Okay.
we've got the old RFP to use as a base, and,
Okay. And are we going to review that by committee or?
what we can do is we can, bring the RFP forward and let the court see it and review it along with anyone else who might be interested in doing so. Won't require action per se by the court, but we could do it on a Friday agenda, for example. Or we could bring it up for the court again.
If the motion's approved, when do you want that by?
So,
Noon?
noon today, yes.
Okay.
I think that, let's go middle of August, August 15th. That gives time to review it, go back and forth if we need to, and still have more than a month before we
Yeah,
have
because
it.
like when I did the 2 for the medical, I would send it to civil and then juvenile and have them review it in the auditor's office and then present the finalized one to the court. Is that how you want to do this
Yeah.
one? Okay.
So we're bringing the final RFP back to the court to be approved or just for review?
The way your motion is, we wouldn't need to.
No, I don't think we don't necessarily need to
No.
as long as everyone's,
Everyone would have. everyone
Legally,
who's involved would-
yeah.
Right.
yeah, I don't think we need to.
And that's not a source well or buy board kind of function?
No, sir.
We can buy them Lunchables off of Buy Board.
Do we have a list of people to send that to, or do we just post it?
I think in the past we just post it. I usually put it out on the Texas Jail Association listserv, and then,
So there's some exposure there.
Yeah,
I was gonna
because
say
there-
that's kind of a unique,
yeah, there is vendors on that list as well, so they get
Okay.
that, and then we'll post it, in the paper, I think is what we're required to do.
I do think if we're gonna go to the trouble of, y'all are gonna go to the trouble of drafting an RFP and going out for it, it does make sense to, let's try to get the word out and
Yeah,
the vendors can know, so they can bid.
okay.
Okay, so got a motion from Commissioner Beecham and seconded by Commissioner Buchanan to develop an RFP and solicit bids for food services for inmates in Wichita County Jail. Do we have any public comment or questions on this? Okay, the motion is before us. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. All right, item number 3. Discuss, consider, and/or take action to approve Enterprise Fleet Management's list and replacement schedule, and to authorize county judge to sign the master agreement. Nick, do you want to come up and present or introduce?
Yes, I do. Good morning, everybody. Good to see everyone again. All right. So, really, my recommendation hasn't necessarily changed from our last meeting. You know, we looked at doing a reduced number of vehicles in the first round. We have a total of 73 vehicles scheduled to be, what I recommend to be replaced over the next, 12 to 18 months, of the first 12 to 18 months of the partnership. The problem I was running into, if we were trying to do a reduced count of vehicles.
Back up for a second, 'cause I had asked Nick about, with interest rates being so high, just to run some numbers on what it would be what a difference it would make if interest rates come down in the next 18 months to 2 points. What that would do to our finance costs, so we have more information on if we do move forward with this. Would we want to buy immediately? Would we want to buy a fewer amount immediately? That type of thing. So that's what he's addressing.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically for every 100 basis points, 1%
Yeah.
of interest cost, you swing about, when everything's fully implemented, about $30,000 per year in total cost difference for every 1% of difference, which is, it's real money when you get a couple percent in there. The kind of, I guess the hitch in the get up there is that if we do a reduced number of vehicles, we have a pretty good number of vehicles we're going to be reducing the fleet size by, like 25 vehicles, I think, and reduction of the current fleet size. And problem is that we slow down our replacement schedule, we might not be able to reduce the fleet size as quickly because we're still going to have a lot of old vehicles in the fleet. We're going to have to still have a good amount of spares sitting in the fleet to be able to maintain that. So if we do a reduced fleet size, one of the other side of it too is if we by doing my recommended plan is you'll also be able to reduce the number of vehicles that you'll have insured as well. So therefore, you'll be able your insurance costs should reduce and almost negate the interest cost difference, assuming that interest does go down by 200 basis points in the next few years, which I'm not sure that's going to actually happen.
Listening to the forecast, I don't know that that's really. It might drop a few basis points.
Yeah.
Well, what would prevent Nick Enterprise from getting rid of our 34 or 25 immediately when we purchase, say we slow down and we're only going to do 20 vehicles or 10 vehicles and take all those spares and push them at that moment instead of letting them get any more age on them?
Yeah, no, we definitely can. I think but if we only do half the amount of vehicles, we're still going to have a large percentage of older vehicles in the fleet. So if you push out all the quote-unquote spares and we didn't replace as many as we need to replace, you might potentially run into some operational issues, specifically in the sheriff's department, I think. I mean, this is all, nothing's written in stone here. I mean, we're doing a lot of what ifs because we don't necessarily know what's going to happen with the older vehicles that still remain in fleet. They could run fine. They could, blow up on us. We don't really know. So I think that's why I think my recommendation would be and this isn't like, hey, we're having 73 vehicles come in tomorrow. This is going to take 12 to 18 months to get all this implemented regardless of that. So I think it makes good sense because there's just too many, I call it the balloon squeeze. We don't do as many over here, it's going to have an effect somewhere else in the process. And I think that sticking with the plan as recommended is the only way to kind of be sure of things.
Well, I'm misunderstanding the spares in the fleet. Are you telling me that those are operational today and that we're going to stop them? I'm taking them that they're non-used vehicles in our fleet.
No, we don't have to. I don't think there's a whole lot of. There's a handful of non-used. Most of them are used as backup of the spares because we have to my understanding from the conversations I had, are mostly used as the less older ones go down. We have to put a much older one in service for a little bit, and that's what's going on. But if everything's going to be new and it's going to stay new, we're not going to have those issues.
I misunderstood that as well. I was thinking that you were, which is these are all extra unused vehicles.
Yeah, because that's a pretty large percentage of unused vehicles for any and for any county to have. And the reason y'all have them makes really good sense. It's because the vehicles have been held for a longer period of time.
So even in my precinct, I probably have 1 or 2 spare trucks, even after this all. But
But there's a difference. A lot of ours are seasonal. You know, that's not really a spare. If you use it 3 or 4 months out of the year, and then it's not, you know, terminology here is a little different. Anyway,
What I contend to have is maybe not spares, but I sure get them long in the tooth. They'll
Yeah.
age on me without taking appropriate action on them. That occurs to me as much as anything.
I've probably got the oldest string in the fleet. And, maintenance is becoming a big issue. It's getting costly to maintain that stuff. But yeah, it's costly to replace them all too.
Well, I don't see the replacement list.
No, and so I was gonna say that I think the way the item is worded is, I don't think we need to take action to approve the list of replacement schedule today.
We
Because
saw a list a couple
we
weeks
saw
ago.
this a couple weeks ago.
I thought maybe there was an updated.
No, my recommendation is update. So here's what normally happens here. Once y'all approve the partnership in general, then each department head is gonna sign off on the individual vehicles that we're acquiring to replace in their individual part. So each precinct, the sheriff's gonna sign off on it, and then it goes to the judge for final signature. So basically, what y'all approved today is you're approving the partnership in general. You're also authorizing the judge to execute the master agreements once approved by county attorney. You're also authorizing us to do up to this number of vehicles over the next 12 to 18 months. But each individual vehicle replacement schedule won't necessarily come back to court. They'll go through the various track through the department heads, get them approved specs, the vehicles we're acquiring, and then ultimately the judge will sign off on each individual vehicle that we replace. Because it'd be a lot to bring in all that many vehicles back to the court constantly.
Nick, we've of course been going last week, and we just received the red line on the service agreement.
Yep.
But it is huge. This agreement is very long and
Yes.
detailed, and I don't know that we've been through that or not. And I couldn't give someone a good explanation of a $50,000 vehicle, and the county buys at $50,000. From point A to 5 years from now, I understand I can derive the cost of purchasing that vehicle. I can't derive the cost of you purchasing that vehicle for me. And what's entailed in as simple as a 5-vehicle purchase or a 1-vehicle purchase carried across to get me to year 5 when we're gonna flush them again.
Mm-hmm.
I can do it when we're borrowing the money, but I can't do it when I'm borrowing the money from you and there's other moving parts inside there that I don't have a good grip on.
Yeah, so what the analysis put together is really from a county-wide perspective, looking at us acquiring 73 vehicles in the first year, and us, they're all just finances. So I'm projecting just around $900,000 in finance payments, about a little over $500,000 in upfront equipment cost on those vehicles. And we're anticipating a little over $900,000 in equity inbound from the sell off of those roughly 101 vehicles that we're selling off, and 107 vehicles we're selling in the first year. 12 to 18 months of the partnership. So
What was that last number? Was it 90? You just gave a number of the equity.
Equity, a little over 900,000. We projected $963,000 in equity.
Let's just say we completed that phase of it. Does that 900,000 come back to the general fund, or does it go toward this program?
It goes. We will really, y'all can, how you treat the funds doesn't necessarily involve us. We typically cut a check back to the county for those funds, and y'all can treat them how you will. Most time it goes towards into the individual department's general fund budget.
I think that would be to us.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you wanted it to come in and,
Basic considerations on
yeah.
the cash flow, and, I mean, there are several decisions to make there. I've not been able to get through all 40 pages, as fascinating as this is. Well, and what I always look at it, and we're expecting a good experience.
Yep.
We are, and I think what you've shown us so far gives us some confidence that this can be there. But what I always like to go to anytime I've ever signed a contract is let's go to the other end. And let's just say 2 or 3 years down the road, we have some kind of a financial change here, something happens. I mean, you know, we can't worry about, you know, the world may come to an end. You can't worry about that. But I always kind of like to know what the exit is. And I've not got to that yet. And
Yeah, for sure.
that's, you know, I'm sorry, I should have. Once again, it's 40 pages, a very small.
Yeah.
But we have an attorney who's very good.
Gotta keep those lawyers in business,
really,
right?
He really does a great job.
Yeah. So, just so you know, the agreements are made up of they're the master, what we call lease agreement, that oversees that actual individual schedules associated with the finance schedules, and all the other subsequent things are addendums to that for the various services we're going to be providing. Because what you'll see in the agreement, there are a couple different entities involved. We have our FM Trust, which is the lending arm of our business of the trust. And then we also have Enterprise Fleet Management Inc., which oversees most of the services related to it. As far as the out of this, I mean, there's the all the services side of it are open ended. You know, there's no like term associated with them necessarily. The master agreement, the only thing you're beholden to is the individual finance schedules for the vehicles that we've replaced. And at the end, you know, y'all decide each year we're gonna come to you and say, hey, we recommend replacing these vehicles, even a lease vehicle, and y'all will say either yes or no. You say no, we want to keep running this, that's okay. What happens is the vehicle just continues to amortize, and eventually amortizes out, and it pays off, and then y'all just keep operating that vehicle.
Just shift some numbers on the spreadsheet, basically.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah. So what's going to happen? Just the lease costs go down. Probably your maintenance costs will go up because you're running an older vehicle. But that's part of our job. What you're hiring us to do is continually analyze those numbers to make those recommendations around. Okay, no. What if I don't replace? What if I do replace? What's the long-term financial implications of that? What's the resale implications of keeping it longer versus replacing it now? And this is a very malleable plan, and it's going to continually change every single year. You're going to see changes to what this plan and what our recommendations are going to be, because we're a fleet management company in a day, and that's what you're hiring us to do, is provide those
We
those
don't know a whole
recommendations.
lot more about it after you operate it for a while.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it all seems a little foreign to y'all right now because it's so new and different to what y'all have historically ever done. But there is really, I mean, we're also as a business, we're not in the business of keeping people's clients who don't want to be clients. So
Sure.
it's fairly easy. That's why our agreements are
You guys been
written.
doing this a long time. I mean,
Yeah, since the 50s.
Yeah.
So we think we've got it down to somewhat of a science at this point.
This agreement is the overall management, which does include the maintenance.
Correct.
If I understand it right.
Correct.
We talked about the maintenance end of this thing for a little while, a few weeks ago, when
Yep.
we were having this discussion, and I didn't completely understand physically how we're gonna do that, and maybe we won't know for a while.
Yeah, I mean, so there's the way we cut maintenance. I'll explain this part again. There's two different ways. Either on all the existing fleet that's in service today, until the point that we replace them, they stay under what's called a maintenance management program, which is a pay-as-you-go program. So it goes into a shop somewhere. The shop we audit the cost of labor, cost of parts, make sure everything's up and up with the shop, and then the shop bills us. We pay the invoice, say it's $100. And then we consolidate all those invoices on a monthly basis, and then we pass them back through to you on a dollar-for-dollar basis. So, and then we're tracking all the expenses as they are incurred on those vehicles.
So
So,
we're gonna do maintenance on what we're acquiring and part of the existing fleet that we're
Correct.
keeping?
correct.
So they bill
Where
you.
is the shop?
We have quite a few of them in the area.
Okay.
So we can't do any maintenance anymore on our vehicles. It all has to go through.
You can if you want to. Most counties tend to migrate away from that though.
So you could like opt one out.
We do all of our own
Yeah.
oil changes and everything in-house, so.
Yeah.
You can either continue to do that. Now on the new vehicles we acquire, I don't necessarily recommend y'all do that. Y'all can still do it. So let me keep on talking here. So
Okay.
on the new vehicles we acquire that are non-pursuit rated vehicles, we typically put those under a fixed cost maintenance program. So month 1 through month whatever, there's a set fixed budget amount for all the maintenance repairs, the PMs, the preventive maintenance, major repairs, minor repairs, everything that's going to occur, and that does need to be outsourced to a licensed repair facility in the area if we're going to. Yeah.
Yeah,
And the other side of it too, just from a warranty item, especially as vehicles are newer, the technology's changing, it's a lot more beneficial to outsource them to a licensed repair facility. I'm sure y'all got great guys that do great work, but we have a lot more recourse from the manufacturer if we have paper trails of work being performed by a licensed repair facility versus some semblance of internal records or lack thereof, internal records at points in time.
We're probably better off on the stuff that you don't have to plug a laptop into.
Yeah.
Or on the ladders.
Yeah, and just everything's getting so much more complicated. I mean, I think about my Silverado pickup truck that's down there. It's a rolling computer system nowadays, and
yeah, but we still don't know what shops we're taking them to.
yeah, we have quite a few contracted shops there.
You put up
Yeah,
you put up that map. Do you remember the map with the green and blue dots?
I've seen so much
Yeah,
of this, it's hard to remember.
Come on. Well, he can't remember everything after that shock he got, right?
So Nick, and I know you've got somewhere, you've got a list of those in our region, those maintenance facilities.
What's the zip code here? I'm so sorry.
Oh, 76301.
But I wanted to understand the fleet budget, what that consists of annually.
Yep. So we have a total. Just so you know, we have a total of roughly 25 maintenance facilities within a radius of that 25-mile radius of that zip code.
Okay.
Most of them being concentrated within about 5 to 10 mile radius of the zip code there. So we have fairly substantial shop coverage up in the area. But if y'all have a shop that y'all use today that's not part of our program for some reason, we always look at and get them added to it fairly easy. As long as they're a licensed, reputable facility, we can do that. All right, in terms of the budget numbers, to go back to that.
What makes up a fleet budget?
So it's comprised of acquisition costs of the vehicles.
Less sale?
Yeah, so eventually less sales. So you got acquisition costs due to the finance payments on the vehicles. You have your upfront equipment costs, and so how the aftermarket equipment works, I'll explain that as we go through this. On all the equipment that's total equipment cost that's aftermarket, that's over $10,000, we capitalize 50% of it into the lease. The other half of it's billed up front. So 50 cents on the dollar is capitalized, 50% on the dollar is actually billed as we deliver the vehicles. On any equipment cost that's between $5,000 and $10,000, we capitalize 75% of it into the lease. The other 25% is billed upon delivery of the vehicle. Any equipment cost that's below $5,000 is capitalized 100% into the lease. So the $500,000 in projected equipment cost in the first year is comprised of, most of that's come from the sheriff's department, obviously, because their equipment cost is substantially higher than the other departments needed. So most
We're still
Where are
gonna,
you getting $500,000 from?
in the
Which
synopsis. Oh, so the upfront capital and equipment costs column.
And does that fold into what's known as the fleet budget column?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
so,
So you gotta add up that lease, the finance cost column, the upfront equipment cost column, the maintenance and fuel column, less the equity from resale. So that and all that totals up to the fleet budget.
That fleet budget
But-
cost is the sum of everything from purchase.
but we're still gonna have outside cost if we have additional equipment on those vehicles that go above, what'd you say, 10,000 was the
No. That's for the aftermarket equipment cost.
aftermarket? Yeah,
That's anything that's above 10,000 is, again, 50% is capitalized into lease, 50%. So you have
So-
some equipment cost that's $30,000.
yeah.
So we have 15,000 of it but capitalized in a lease, and $15,000 of it's billed up front.
Build up from, so,
Yeah.
But is 30,000
So that's an additional
in that,
cost.
Yeah, it is.
in that
Yeah,
fleet
correct.
budget cost?
Yeah, remember when I came in here and we did that exercise, we went through all the vehicles one by one, and did the same thing with the sheriff's department as well. So we went through and we assigned equipment budgets for every single vehicle in the
And
fleet.
is
For the
any
most part, pretty
fuel,
high.
any fuel in that number?
Yeah, and not that, in the estimated fuel and maintenance column number, there is fuel in there.
But not in the fleet budget number?
Yeah, it's in the fleet budget, all that total
It is.
up.
That's,
So, I mean, I think it's only practical, and not, Margaret, I don't know how difficult it is to get there, and it's fairly limited, between the sheriff's department, the road and bridge, and, just an offshoot here and there. What is our current fleet budget cost using the same map that Nick is using?
Oh, how much we're using, it'd take a minute to get that all
That'd
together,
take some,
because
that'd
that's
take
gonna
some
be
time.
I can get it for you, but it's gonna take a little bit. I can't just answer that
Well,
right now.
okay.
Well, how do you say, oh, this is good, without knowing that
Yeah.
number?
So
Yeah,
you're
we-
saying fuel and maintenance, basically.
Fuel maintenance and capital expenditure costs that we're paying for today, either through some form of loan or whether we do spend it outright. What is that number when, and
So you know, I wanted to explain to you how the current costs are working. So on average, you're buying about 12 vehicles every year as a county. Some years more, some years less, but your blended average is around 12 a year. So, you know, it's 10 years, you can buy 120 vehicles over the next 10 years is really what this is analysis is saying. And so what it's doing is it's taking the current cost of vehicles today, because you really can't even look at last year or year before for vehicle costs. Vehicle costs are going up this year by about 5%. So we have to look at today's cost of vehicles, and it's really taking that today's cost of vehicles based on what y'all told me y'all needed and multiplying it by 12. That's what it's doing to get us to our average annual purchase expense. And we have also have $114,000 in average equipment cost based off the equipment that y'all need there. Then it's taking the average annual mileage of your fleet, and it's doing a calculation to get the fuel cost on it based on what you're operating today. So current average miles per gallon of your current fleet should be hovering around 19 miles a gallon, the MPG on them. And so then based on your blended average annual mileage of 8,200 miles a year blended across everything, multiplied by, use $3 for the cost of fuel. That's how it calculates out the fuel. It's just a simple calculation. And so the fuel savings is projecting us a 2 mile per gallon improvement in fuel economy by running new vehicles compared to running out an older fleet, which is fairly conservative considering where engine technology is today. So that's where that cost savings is coming from.
Margaret,
Yes.
I think it would be beneficial to everyone. Do you think that by the end of the week, y'all could pull out what the
Top of the numbers.
2022 fleet budget was on sort of an apples to apples comparison?
I think we can do that.
It's gonna be a little weird because the county didn't buy any vehicles the last couple of years.
And
But
and
you could-
Margaret's best
you could go
numbers
over
are
a
gonna
3
be-
4
our
year
easiest
period
numbers
and-
are inside Munis when we probably had less.
Yeah,
But we could develop a maintenance and look at capital too, and we could understand it a little bit better, what.
Yeah, as long as you're allocating, y'all are very clear on what's for vehicles and what's for equipment in each department.
Yeah.
And none of that ever gets intermingled.
This would be a lot simpler if we were UPS and we had 50 similar trucks that did the same thing every day. But we've got lots of different things that do different things, and, you know, that's what makes this so complicated.
And Nick, don't misunderstand me, I'm all for doing a positive move. I just wanna understand completely where I've been, because the difference is gonna be on the taxpayer's shoulder, and it's going to require me then to have to go up on a tax rate that maybe we shouldn't have to do necessarily. So I want to make sure we're understanding completely what these additional new program costs are, because anytime we go to acquiring more and more new vehicles at higher and higher costs than we're setting today, it certainly drives that factor more so than ever, just because the sheer outlay of cash is going to be greater.
I was thinking about this quite a bit on the drive home yesterday.
That's your problem, is that everyone just spent a lot of time in the car.
That's right. And, you know, when you keep coming up with scenarios, it's like I said earlier, if this was a delivery service that run one kind of truck and did the same thing every day, it'd be very simple. That's not what we are. We, over the last number of years, we have rolled some of our older patrol vehicles over to the constables and for some other uses. Have we considered that in this?
Yeah.
It takes into account, Nick's captured the replacement of new vehicles.
But we're gonna put that, you know, that's gonna be hard. It's hard for me to see a money savings when you're rolling that many new vehicles into the program where we just kinda, and I understand maintenance costs are high on those vehicles and other things, but that's what makes this thing so complicated, is it's got so many working parts and.
The resale is probably gonna be the biggest money saver, is they're gonna manage our resale and get more out of them
Yeah.
when they need to be sold, and that's the whole deal, building that fleet newer.
And I suspect better maintenance,
But
Yeah.
which it's just.
that has always been the detriment, though, Mickey, is why we haven't done it, is because of the cost of doing that. So we have no problem, and anybody says, hey, if I'm staying in a vehicle 5 years old or newer, hey, I'm gonna be better off. The downside of that, why people don't do it, is because of what's essentially involved in the cost of that. So
That's why I think it's important to have that historical data, see what we've been spending on our maintenance and operations of that fleet.
Vital.
But
Yeah.
what's bad is the county as a whole, I hate to say it, we don't have the best records across the board. Even on that, because we've changed systems and software.
Well, but
So,
I could tell you Lisa's number pretty good of sheriff's department, and it's left me in the dust. Now, a new Tahoe and the equipping of that has just changed so drastically. We've got a good grip on a pickup that has to have special itemized stuff, whether that's just fuel tank and toolbox or headache rack, or we're replacing a bed, putting a specialized bed on there. But those have changed so much, and so it's difficult, like
Well,
Barry,
there
you
was-
said.
There was one in the trade show. There's no end.
Yeah.
I spent some time looking at it. and
Which
God,
brings
there's
up a
no
good
end.
question. What, in a couple of years when we go
Yeah.
all electric, what's that
Oh, they've
what's that do
already-
to us?
Nick, he brings over and slap me.
No, well, I mean, that was what, in visiting with
Well,
the,
and Nick addressed that last
That's
time,
why
that he
we
felt
have
like
here.
they were in a good position. If that become the case, make that transition. That worried me, Mark, because, can we get rid of the vehicles that,
well, that's
pretty
that's
much,
gonna be a effect either way, whether we're managing the
Right.
fleet or he's
No.
managing the fleet, that's still something
You're
we're gonna
right.
have to do.
you're right, but
Yeah, so just so you know, what I've accounted for into the budget is, I get all the vehicles are very unique. But that's why we did the exercise of what do you have, what do we replace it with, what do I need to budget for equipment. And I know it seems very daunting because all these moving parts, and this is what we do every day. So it doesn't seem that daunting to us. But, we have, $70-some-odd thousand per vehicle budgeted for replacement of a patrol vehicle. To give you, in that I have built into that fiscal budget that I've put together. So we've accounted for and made this as close to a science as we possibly can with something as dynamic as vehicle cost and vehicle management is.
what happens, Nick, if that is the case, and in our budgeted number, you've used 70, and Lisa's team comes in with a $55 cost, is the money allocated and you're gonna pull in another vehicle? Or do we have discretion over that?
Yeah, y'all have complete discretion because we don't actually order a single vehicle until it's gone through 2 sets of checks and balances with y'all. So it's gonna go, like, for instance, Sheriff's Department, I'll pick on that one. So Sheriff's Department will sign off on the vehicle specs, the equipment, all that, and it ultimately goes to typically the judge to sign off on the final before, or someone else, it depends on who you want to allocate that to, the final approver before we actually.
Wouldn't it have to
order
come
a
all the way
vehicle.
back to court?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just it's a lot of, typically, y'all are, most, I'll tell you, I'm not saying y'all have to do anything one way or the other. We're setting a budget for the whole year, the first 12 months of the partnership. As long as we're staying with the confines of the budget and the quantities of vehicles, it doesn't necessarily come back to the court, because it's just a lot of transactions to run back through the court. So many of them all the time, as long as we're staying in the confines, and typically only comes back to court whenever, if for some reason we have we're gonna exceed that budget for whatever.
I don't think we can make a purchase without it coming to court.
Well, and,
that contract.
yeah,
When he means the county judge signs it, he would put it on the agenda and pull it through for review.
Well, that's not what he's saying.
No, but he doesn't understand the county government, I think, to the entirety is.
Well, I think some Texas counties probably.
well, because you're not actually purchasing vehicles, this is falling under a fleet management, award that y'all piggybacking off of, that where it doesn't necessarily have to come back
So
through every
the
single.
question is when we sign this agreement, is that changing the procedure? And we're not gonna do it the way we've always done it, which is bring anything like that through court. Isn't that what we're really talking about?
Well, we're not, I guess by this, we're not actually purchasing the vehicles. We set them up as our supplier of vehicles.
Right.
Yeah.
But I don't even see my list of what vehicles, and I know you said that's fluid, that'll be discussed.
Yeah, it's on
but-
the synopsis that I sent out a couple weeks ago.
But we're getting ready to make a decision to purchase 100+ vehicles, and I don't even have that list.
Yeah, I think
in
there's a
front
total
of
of
me.
73 that we're acquiring in the first year. And
is
we're-
this
we're-
I wouldn't buy 100
9
thumbtacks
years
unless
of
I saw what they
transaction.
looked like.
No, I don't, that's not what we're doing today,
Okay.
is approving, that's why the way that it says to approve the list that's not.
Okay, well, that's, yeah.
That's not what we're doing.
So we're gonna enter into a contract to allow us to develop the list, and is that?
And we could, I know it's not how it's done in other places, but if the court wanted it to, we can certainly set up our own processes so that when the sheriff's office signs off on what they wanna do, it comes to me, I put it on the agenda that
be
we've got
ratified.
11 vehicles of these different departments, and the court sees it and can approve it or disapprove it, and I wouldn't sign it without the court's approval. We can
Y'all can do it.
do it that way.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a week.
Right.
It takes a week
It's
to do
not
that, so.
And we do still, whatever the court decides to do today, I am gonna ask that any motion include the language that it's pending, successful resolution of some of the contract language negotiations, because Melvin did identify some concerns he has, and Nick and I just haven't had the chance to go back and forth and.
Has Nick seen the red line that Mel's done?
No,
I didn't,
he's
well,
not.
I did not do that
The
red
line
line,
is
that
the-
was
the red
provided to
line
me.
is from-
Yeah, I gave him
That-
some of the recommended typical, the most common red lines, so that you use that as a starting point for things to
In
consider.
the past, anytime we've gone into any kind of a lease deal on equipment or whatever, the first thing that comes up is we have very unique insurance
Yeah.
requirements and programs that we operate under, and that's one we have.
It's one of the things we have to.
Yeah, you'd have to get through, so
Well,
that's,
I'm on board with the concept. I think it's a good plan moving forward, but I don't think we have enough questions answered. I think we need to do the review this time, the legal review, and then bring it back to court for a decision, personally.
I'm liking it better than I did the first.
Oh,
time
yeah.
I looked at it, but
The
I'm
concept
there
is
yet.
there. I
There's
think
40 pages.
think it's a
here.
good thing.
It is a radically, it's a radical
I mean-
departure from how we've done things, and so we need to make sure that everybody's comfortable with it, if that's.
And the numbers that we asked Margaret for, are pretty important.
No, I would much rather have the legal review up front before we approve going into partnership. I know it's different than how we've done things a lot of times in the past, but this is a radical change in how we do business.
Margaret, if you could pull that together, Mickey's got to go up.
If you haven't noticed, this is a very conservative court that maybe has some trust issue.
Margaret,
I'm just saying.
and I certainly will look at or help you however, but because of the way you tag particular items, now, Road and Bridge, y'all have migrated to put those costs in auto expense.
That's what I was gonna say. I should have said earlier. I think Friday, but you know, when we had 1 million lines, no one liked that.
Right.
Now everything goes into repair. If
And
fuel
I think
goes in
that's
there,
okay.
parts go in there, repair goes in there, in order to make everybody happy, to make it a simpler thing to look at, which also makes it a little bit more difficult to go pull exact things you wanted, because we don't have a line for every single thing.
Right.
Does it intermingle, does the vehicles get intermingled at all with other stuff at all? with
Well,
parts or anything else?
The
The vehicle should not, but everything done, if you get fuel, if you go buy an air filter
tire.
for it, if you go get an oil change for it, if you get one tire, if you have a $5,000 collision, all of that is
It's
in
a-
one.
in one place. So that will help gather that information, but we only have that for 2 years?
Half of 21, 22, and then, so yeah, basically.
Well, I would make the motion that we direct our civil attorney to review the legal and insurance questions, and also direct our auditor's office to give us historical information so we can make a better decision moving forward.
You say you already did red lines?
No, I've reviewed the agreement. It has what are included, which you've mentioned were the red lines that you guys have included, and Jim and I have had some discussions about what I thought about some of that, but I think Commissioner Beecham brings up the point that we probably need to make sure we have lots of discussion about that.
Yeah, the legal review,
Mhm.
and also with our insurance, make sure that
Yes.
we're understanding the implications of what that does to our insurance with TAC, and what the cost savings potential is, or are we compatible with the insurance requirements?
Yeah, I mean, every other county in Texas we work with uses
Okay.
the same insurance.
Okay.
Cooperative,
Okay.
for that, so I'm not too concerned about that. I think your insurance cost implications are gonna be more in the reduction of your fleet
Yeah,
size.
and I
And
believe
really
so.
I don't really know exactly.
I
what
believe
is.
that, you saying that, but
Yeah,
we need to see.
yeah,
We'll be a lot
That-
better
that's a
if it's
factor.
2 years into it.
yeah, I mean, it's
Project,
it's definitely gonna be an evolution, and it's gonna, like I said before, it's gonna perpetually change over the years. As far as our recommendations, our services aren't gonna change, but the recommendations we give you all is gonna always be changing, as it should be.
Okay, so right now we have a motion from Commissioner Beecham to direct the civil attorney to review legal and insurance considerations of the agreements, and direct the auditor's office to provide an overall comparison of costs.
And I'll second that motion.
Yeah, it's not a no, it's a, let's get more information and move on.
Nick, you're gonna earn,
Yeah, apparently
earn this
so.
one.
Yeah.
And also, Nick is more than happy to answer individual questions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
From each of the commissioners if they have them, or from anyone.
yeah, please, feel free to just.
Plus, I want that list in front of me too, so
Do you still have the synopsis from before?
I do, but
Yeah,
I don't know
it's
what the
on
new, well, I've changed some of my vehicles, changed maintenance vehicles that weren't on the list originally, so I don't
From
have
a
the.
few weeks ago, things have changed?
Yeah,
From when we talked?
from the last time you were here, yeah. Because I reviewed my vehicles, and there was one of them that was on the list that's actually been auctioned off. It's no longer our vehicle. But we also were missing a vehicle that I have in my inventory. Plus, we were missing 2 maintenance vehicles. So I don't, without the list, the current list, I don't know what I would be voting on.
Yeah, well, I'll resend that. It's the list.
Okay.
I mean,
All right.
because when we went through the vehicle, we were in here in court, and I went through the fleet vehicle by vehicle.
Yeah,
I made any edits to a change, and I resent that out.
okay. And I gave that, my amended version to Debbie, and she was supposed to give that back to you.
Yeah, and I think we.
So that's what-
But I'll
Yeah.
resend it out to
Okay.
everybody.
And Nick, so for your information, our insurance cost today, just per unit on the current fleet, $484 a year per unit.
Per unit
is what
for
we're paying
for the liability
liability and collision coverage.
for
And
any.
and that allows us a $5,000 deductible. Now, that, will be lowered to some extent because within that number, I'm only using the current fleet of vehicles. Within that number we're paying, which is $85,000 a year, just shy of $85,000 a year, is, trailer costs, which is not a part of your equation, but I've got trailers covered that are licensed things, as well as a pretty good amount of big trucks
That are mingled
that
into
are
that.
in that $85,000. If it has a license plate from the state of
Yeah.
Texas on it, it's in that $85,000.
Yeah, if you want to get me a per vehicle cost, I can actually add that as a layer into the analysis as well. The cost delta from fleet size reduction. Does it vary in the sheriff's department as far as the per vehicle cost?
Well,
For
it
the
does
six vehicles?
based on the value of the vehicle. So the higher the price of the vehicle, the higher insurance we pay. But I'm just looking at it on average of, and you know the age of our fleet, but on average today, that's what we're spending $500 a year per unit, not including any dump trucks, semi-trailers, or pull-behind trailers of a pickup. So that number will push down $484.
Do you-
$484.
Do y'all have the actual cost on a unit by unit basis?
Yes,
the
we
true
do.
the true cost for unit XYZ.
We do have
this is the
that.
cost. I mean, if you can provide that to me, I can layer that into the analysis, because then I can say these are the vehicles we're selling off and not replacing. This is how much exactly their insurance cost is going to reduce
So,
by.
and just on average, I mean, we can go for anywhere from $12 a month to $35 a month. In a lot of instances on just the age of our fleet is what I'm used to seeing, but Nancy has a spreadsheet that we requested from our TAC.
Yeah.
Bear in mind, we're not insurance. We
Yeah,
belong to
yeah,
a risk pool.
Yeah, I understand.
And so it's different and cheaper for us, but those are just gives you a basis to work from. But I think we can provide.
Is what you're telling me though, is that for the physical damage portion? That's the liability side of it.
That covers both liability. We don't have anything just right now on liability. We're working that direction for
Yeah.
those older vehicles to just be liability, but right now everything has collision and liability on it.
Gotcha.
That's how we submitted it when we started the program.
And so your total pay into the pool is 85,000, which includes the liability portion as well.
Correct.
Yeah, just if y'all just give me a list, I can just incorporate it fairly easily, as long as it's in Excel, hopefully.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think with Commissioner Beecham's motion and with the general, we're getting there.
Okay.
Just
I think I know what I'm supposed to be doing. It's clear as mud to me, but
after court, I can ask Nancy to put together the action items for everybody who are here.
yeah, I
And
think
then we can
rally back up. Just let me know. Make sure I'm clear on what the work I'm needing to be doing. Yeah, I think I have a general idea of that.
All right, so the motion from Commissioner Beecham and seconded by Commissioner Watts is to direct civil attorney to review legal and insurance considerations of the agreement and direct the auditor's office to provide overall cost comparison information. All right, do we have any questions or more comment on that motion? All right, a motion is before us. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, that motion carries 5-0.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Nick.
Yes, sir.
Hopefully an item that will be a little quicker. Item number 4, discuss, consider, or take action to install 2 yield signs on Peterson Road in South Peterson Road.
And I had the constituent ask that question directly. I told Debbie I'd just default to the easy side and place it here. But basically, on the end of the road, there's the end of Peterson Road where it begins to play out and go to the Chaparral Baptist or the winery, or one is known as Loop, Peterson Loop. There's need for yield signs. We have a yield sign in one location, one of those roads, but the other two needs yield signs, and he had asked me about placing those. I provided that map so y'all could see.
You're doing an all-way yield?
Do what?
You're doing an all-way yield? Or a three-way yield?
Each road would have a yield coming into the next road. You know, they all break into the road at different angles.
Right.
So,
Coming
like if
out
you're
of-
coming down Winery, it would yield you to watch for oncoming traffic. If you're coming from the Baptist camp or from Peterson Loop, it just cautions you to know that oncoming traffic is headed south and you're headed north, and you can't see them until you break the curve.
I don't know, Jeff, I don't know that that's, I'll have to go back and study my MUTCD. I've been out of it for a while, but I don't know if you can do an all-way yield.
I think one has to have priority.
Even if they're different roads. Because Peterson
Well, they don't
ends.
do it.
You do have a problem out there.
No, there's no true intersection.
Yeah.
They're all at a different intersection, but they're all Peterson Road. There used to be a bridge there that now is at the lake in Iowa Park, and you used to come across the old iron bridge and go across the creek and split. The Horseshoe Bend Winery developed, and that road grew and became.
Yeah, it makes it really hazardous if you're coming out of the Chaparral camp.
Yes,
Because you don't
it could.
stop, yeah.
It could. But it also is hazardous coming from Chaparral and coming up East Loop. You could get very close to, if you don't know to pay attention, you could be in trouble there too, where those roads in close proximity come back into the main road, and it's all at the creek. It all occurs at that,
Yeah, it
which is
does.
now a low water crossing.
Yeah.
Throw that in the mix.
Is it
Where's
a
good
low
rain
water
come?
crossing now? They take the bridge
The
out?
bridge is gone. The bridge is up Iowa Park, part of the bridge scenario. You know, our lake is lined in old bridges from Wichita County, so, that bridge now sits up there, and
Really?
it's just
When
a
do they do that?
low water crossing thing.
It's quite a while.
It's got culvert in it, and it can maintain normal flow, but in flood events, it just comes over the road. So, but that along Market 20 years ago.
You don't want a stop sign put in there instead?
We tried a stop sign, and nobody out there liked the stop sign and didn't want to utilize the stop sign, and in my mind, that was the best scenario. But they detested on who should have to stop. Southbound, northbound, both bounds.
So now we're gonna have everybody yielding to each other.
Well, I just want them to pay attention there is oncoming traffic.
It's more of a
because
warning deal than it is
That's
really.
that in my mind, because what happens occurs, not the winery road, because you've got clear sight up Peterson when you're coming out of the winery, but you don't have clear sight what's coming around the curve on the low water crossing, because that, if you're not paying attention and only looking north, you could miss what's happening to your south. And then when you're coming south out of Loop Road and Baptist Camp Road, you make a pretty fierce curve, and you have no clue who's coming around that curve. So you need to be in your lane completely. So because of a lot of tree growth and stuff on private property there, it's just very difficult.
Just put a sign at each one that says enter at your own risk.
Well, no, it's just, is there not a like dangerous intersection type sign that would accomplish the same, at least getting people's eyes on it and making sure people are slowing down?
You need to assign right away some way, other than all the yield.
To make
What?
one road
You-
the primary?
Yeah, do you mind if I
Oh, yeah.
research this
You
for a
bet.
week?
Oh, not at all, not at all. This.
Run
there's
back
no
out
rush.
there?
He just asked me.
No.
He was under the impression it came to Commissioner's Court. I wasn't, but I just wanted to default that way, and that's why I wanted y'all to look at it. And there's a map mark on the back.
The problem is, if you
back
have a
up.
wreck, if you put all yield signs there and you have a wreck, and you've got it marked illegally with what the,
Yeah.
the
Yeah, METCD.
DOT standards are, then you would, because
What
of the
happens,
problems.
what happens if you have a wreck today?
Well,
With
then-
no marking?
With no marking.
You don't
It don't
have,
matter.
you're not required,
Because then it would, I guess, fall on whatever
yeah.
the code says.
Each
and that's
individual
what-
If you-
driver is supposed to yield the,
But,
So-
But yeah, no, more than happy to take a look at that.
yeah, it's
See.
essentially a T intersection, so you're not required to put a stop sign on the stem of the T.
Yeah,
But the way it angles, it creates a special hazard because you can come off of Chaparral straight into traffic without yielding or,
yes.
So,
Okay, so
I would
let's
take
take,
no action.
yeah.
there's probably less legal trouble if there was no signs than if it was wrong sign.
Well, it's all my life, there's been no signs, so.
yeah. But I've been out there before where I've ran into that problem
Yeah,
where
uh-huh.
somebody's coming off of Chaparral
Yeah.
and,
When Pick and Jacob up from camp a couple of weeks ago, yeah, it was a 5 mile look.
Yeah, that's exactly
Yeah.
what
So-
you have to do, Judge.
yep, if you don't mind,
Oh,
let's table it.
absolutely,
and
that'd be
I'll
great.
All right, we'll take no
Pull my old
action.
hat back out.
We'll take no action on item number 4. Do we have any comment on this item? All right. Item number 5, receive update on courthouse renovation, elevator projects, and county courthouse annex. Commissioner Reach?
The best thing I've got to report is I've had a great meeting with TK Elevator last week.
Have those words ever been strung together?
I'm sorry,
No.
I had to choke back the laugh.
No, it was a very productive meeting. It was a very productive meeting with them. They are supposed to be here this week to finish the installation of car number 2. And they're supposed to be reviewing all the trouble reports on the annex elevator and getting a plan of action together to resolve that once and for all. So I don't know, have they showed up today?
No, I did talk to Steven, the technician on the annex elevator.
Mm-hmm.
He called me Friday and told me he had gone over all the fault codes that elevator's had in the past with the engineers. They looked at everything. They came to the conclusion that the board that's on order, that's back ordered until the end of August, is going to be the best course of action for that elevator at this time. And that, to see if that remedies our problem. They don't see
Okay.
anything else that they feel like they can do that would improve the situation.
And
without
Rick, that is a new component we haven't ever had to replace since we've had this elevator.
Correct. They replaced, the 2 main boards they replaced a while back just because they were acting finicky, I guess you'd call it. But this particular board that controls the hydraulics in the elevator has not been replaced, so.
And what causes those boards to fail on a brand new elevator?
It's just
Be
like a
anything.
PC, you know, one day you're signing in to the Windows, the next day you got a blue screen. So,
But typically that happens 5 years down the road instead of the day after you buy it.
well, that's subjective.
You've had good luck.
I'm just fixing to say.
It's electronic equipment. I mean,
Yeah.
it could have an anomaly or intermittent failure that those will drive you crazy when you troubleshoot. So
Thank
I'll
you.
give them the benefit of the doubt, but we'll see.
Well, maybe Rick or maybe Barry telling me about clean electricity versus dirty electricity. Do we have an issue with that where we have a sketchier grid?
It should tell us on the type of faults it's having. So if we're having power issue faults, it should show on the log.
Yeah, to say that, you know, I think downtown in general, I mean, you know, we can get a couple of rumbles of thunder, you know, and we're gonna have some power flickers.
Okay.
So, you know, that's just,
But that's not necessarily what's causing these panels to give it up.
I don't believe that's the issue.
Okay.
I thought you were talking about coal fired versus wind. Dirty and clean energy.
Easy now, Judge.
You were in Austin too long last week.
He's been to the NATO conference, I can tell.
So that's really the biggest thing. Everything else is just continuing on as usual. No big milestones this past week.
Just steady progress.
Yeah, and Pat's on vacation this week, so.
Okay. Do we have any questions or other comments on this item? Okay. Now, on everyone's agenda, it says that we're going into closed session at this point. However, we will not be going into closed session today. Instead, we'll be having those discussions that were listed there on Friday's agenda. So,
Okay.
with no closed session happening, that means we don't need to come back into open session. So it is